Brought to you in association with Grendel Press. This is Werewolf, the podcast. A serial killer drama.
As always, welcome to Werewolf the podcast. This is your werewolf Will speaking, and we are on episode 163. We're in part 3 of looking at William Marshal, the greatest knight that ever lived, and the reason for it, because he was a werewolf. Yeah, he really was. No, there's nothing historical that says he wasn't, is there? Hey. Anyway, please support us by following us on the Facebook groups and Facebook and Twitter and Instagram and all those different things. If you go down to the description for the show, just below, just there, see there's words and stuff. If you go in there, there's links. If you could follow us, if you could share us, if you could rate us, if you could do any of that, that would be really helpful, because we know you're great, and you know that we love you deeply. Thank you for listening. Enjoy. Left hindquarters, spear.
Flashes into my mind. I lean forward over my destrier's back, and I feel the tip of the spear hit my backplate, pushing me as I lean. It skates up my backplate and pops over my shoulder, shredding my surcoat as it travels. As per usual, Fen had saved me. In this case, from being skewered. As I lean forward to avoid the spear, I push the point of my sword into an infantryman's shoulder. It goes in at his clavicle and out through his back. He looks at the hilt more in surprise than pain. Although the pain, I know, will follow soon. Bastard kicks forward at another man trying to control his bridle and bites several fingers from his reaching hand. The man folds around to kick by those brutal hooves. I love the weapon, which is my horse. He is as well trained as I for the fighting of men. The name, I realize, may seem a harsh one. The name Bastard, that is. But he suits it well enough. For all but me, an utter bastard is what he is. Using just my knees, I turn Bastard on the spot in a beautiful pirouette. As I do so, I start to sit up and lift my shield under the spear that missed its home, and draw my sword from its meat sheath deftly. Once the sword is taken from it, the man's body falls in convulsions as blood gouts through his fingers. He tries to stem the bloody river from the wound with his hands, he does. Pointless and desperate. I use the turning momentum of my destrier to bring the sword clear and let the injured man be crushed beneath Bastard's stamping hooves. Screams and cries of the man under the horse last only a few moments before he's silenced by his own timely death. As I move the shield, the spear wielder falls forward because of the pressure he's applying to the spear. He's not caught his balance, so I turn my blade and slide it flat down the spear, removing the fingers of the man's lead hand as I do so. There's a moment when I see those fingers fly, and with joy, I tell Fenrir that this man will never use a cowardly tool like that spear again. I've managed to get myself separated from my own army, I have, and I've been pushed into the courtyard of this place by which the armies clash. I have managed to fight myself from the centre of the square to the back wall in order to have my rear clear of attackers. I've already slaked my sword in many a man today. I have many advantages over these ordinary men, you see. One is that I have a well-trained warhorse. Two is that the men here will be trying to capture me and not kill me. They'll want my kit, horse, and myself alive for ransom, you see. Little do they know that I'm worthless in comparison to many of the men on the field today. The only things of value I have are the horse I'm sat on and the armour I wear. There'll be no ransom for me at the end of this day. My third advantage against other men is that this is only my first battle, and I have much to prove to my Duke this day. I will prove to him that the years of training, the years of faith in me, and the years of trust will be proven to be of good worth. He has earned my unwavering loyalty, and as a loyal knight, I will do myself and my lord justice this day. The fourth and most important advantage over mortal men is that I have my good friend Fenrir here with me. He is my invisible wolf angel, my gift from God. He gives me so many advantages. He rewards me with many blessings, even when we're not the wolf or the werewolf together. For example, I have 2 sets of senses and 2 minds, which makes me much more aware and far more deadly as a foe. In the courtyard are the remnants of a band of infantrymen. About 8 or 9 still stand. I've killed and cleared a few of them. About 6 have fallen, I think. The spearman with the mutilated hand is kneeling next to my horse, screaming and collecting his fingers from the ground in desperation. He cries. The battle is over for him as he reacts in shock at this horror of his. Everything else in his world doesn't matter anymore. I look at the group of men opposing me as I lift my sword to strike him down. I want to hurt them by killing this man in front of them. I want to draw them in and make them angry at me. Angry opponents, I have learned over many years of training, are easier meat to skewer.
No! Leave him to scream. Let him sit still there. Lower your blade. Point that blade at this fingerless fool. Fear is your friend here, Will. Let them fear you,
says Fenrir. Fenrir is much wiser than I, and he really knows how to cause hurt in others. He often hurts them in the head, which for a brave man can be far more painful than a physical blow or injury. The kneeling man is weeping now and crying. I could easily kill him as he laments at his loss, but I can imagine from the point of view from his fellows that my leaving him to scrabble and bubble is either terrifying or infuriating, or both. Either way, mental warfare is Fenrir's strength. So I listen and stay my blade.
Sit up now and face him. Aye, that's good. Stay still. Don't move. Let them have to engage you.
The wolf soul tells me, and again I listen.
That's it. Look at them. Look at them. If you charge them, they'll have to respond. Let them build courage to attack you. Make it their choice to engage. Look at them. Look at them. Feel it. Feel it, Will. They're already questioning if they should run it up, and they bloody should.
I love his mind. As I've told you before, Fenrir has given me gifts as my partner in this life. This wolf angel has given me his wolf's gifts. He's given me the senses of the predator. He's increased the strength of this human form by several times. He's given me the ability to heal massive injuries within moments of being afflicted. My mind is sharper, and in the midst of madness, I seem to be able to have some control of my perception of time. When fighting, I seem to be able to slow time down and spot the gaps and attacks much sooner than my opponents do. This with the advice that Fenrir gives me. I am blessed. Bastard is my Destria. He is my warhorse, and he is a bastard. I love him. He now shakes his head and prances his front feet. I think the wolf soul affects him too, I do. I think Fenrir makes the horse a little predatory too. He wants to attack and hurt. His nostrils flare as he smells the blood in the air. He is a king of his kind.
Submit, my lord, submit!
A man shouts.
Submit! Submit! You are outmanned here today, lord. Submit!
I hear the desperation in his voice. I smell the man's lies. He is bluffing, and he is in fear. I do not respond. I just sit silently on my daintily prancing destrier, holding the warhorse back physically from the charge that the animal wants. The men look at each other as they form a nervous semicircle around me. They are getting ready to attack, each of them, trying to gain some bravery from the others present. A large, expensively armored man stands at the center and directs the men, sweeping each arm to set them ready to wound and kill.
Get him,
Shouts Fen, as I instantly charge on the leader before they get a chance to attack. I ride bastard directly at the man. His men do not get the chance to respond as I ride the boss down. He goes under the crushing hooves of my horse as bastard stamps and kicks the grounded man. As my horse kills the man below his feet, the others move in to attack us. I remove the arm of the man to my right as he reaches for me to try and pull me from my saddle.
Left raise!
Fen shouts. I do not need to look. I lift my shield and the strike scores its surface before the attacking weapon is withdrawn. Time slows. Now I see my wolf at the front of the horse for a moment. He is a dark shadow in the world, and his eyes flash brightly as he enjoys the violence that is being done here. I am now in my element. This is what I was born and trained for. This is where Fenrir and I belong. I parry a spear to my right and cleave the wielder's helmet. I circle the sword as the man falls and swings to my right rear. A dagger blade pierces my upper thigh. It goes deep into the flesh there. I grimace a little as I switch my mind from the injury to the attack. I will deal with that when I can. It's already healing. The pommel of my sword strikes a leather-capped head of the knife-wielding warrior. With my inhuman strength, I feel the skull shatter beneath it. He falls due to the life-ending injury I have inflicted. I continue the movement as I backlash with my blade, which opens the throat of another warrior. The gaping wound vomiting blood like a fountain into the air. I smell the iron of it, and it excites me.
They're about to run, my friend. They're about to run.
Enters my mind. And of course, as always, Fenrir is right. I have taken down 6 before I've even noticed. I've been lost in the violence and the bloodletting. I feel alive for the first time. Killing is my thing. This first battle will not be the last. Some are screaming and some are not. Fenrir stands over a man sitting on the floor, gurgling. I see the toothy smile and the blazing eyes flash. Nothing is said by Fenrir, but I know what he wants me to do. I turn the horse and prepare him to charge to the open courtyard gateway. I kick my spurs into my horse's flank and charge after the running man. Bastard runs over the seated man. I feel the body under the hooves of my horse as he viciously crushes the body there. Inside, I feel a moment of pleasure at the man's death. The running cowards throw themselves to the floor out of the way of my stallion's feet. A wise thing to do in this case. A very wise thing indeed. I pass from the courtyard back onto the field of battle. The noise of the fight hits me. Screams and war cries abound. Blade on blade. Blade on shield. Oh, this is bliss. The stench of death is in the air. Blood, fear, guts, and feces all assail my nostrils. And to me, this is bliss. This is where we belong. the wolf and I. Let me find more fools to fight this day. Let me win my spurs. I will be the man who makes the difference on this field. They will tell stories of my valor in years to come. I will be remembered. As we charge from the gateway, Fenrir notices that the enemy's flank is open to me. Somehow the battlers move forward, allowing me to access their right flank so that I can hit from behind. They have no idea that I'm here. I'm about to turn the tide of the fight here. I'm about to make my name. As an older man, let me tell you about this first battle of mine. I take my mind from the fond memory of this fight and will fill the listener with the details of this first time in the field for myself. As an old man, which I am at this juncture, I look fondly on the fight. Not on the aftermath of the battle, but on the fight. I have such sweet and terrible memories. I killed many that day, I did. I killed for my lord. I killed for God. I also have to admit that I killed and injured for the simple pleasure of doing so. I do not feel bad about it. That's my work on this plane after all. My patron, the Tonka V, knighted me, and I joined him on his campaign in the north of Normandy. I made my name on that field, but I also suffered ridicule, which taught me to be much more ruthless. Looking back, I was a foolish young man. I was ready to make my name and eager for the fight, but I had to be restrained from the initial charge. I was so keen to engage that I was sent to the flank to cool my excitement. This forced flanking was actually the reason I won my fame that day. When we finally charged as the cavalry to ride down the enemy, I was forced into the courtyard I described at the start of this story. I charged into the flank, hitting the first knight with a slash across the upper back. His armor turned to blade, but threw the man over the front of his saddle where he slipped and span to the ground. His horse went crazy at the loss of its rider and started kicking and biting and spinning and stamping. It kicked 2 infantrymen behind it. Then, losing its balance, it fell into another knight who was mounted. The horse and rider then started to cause issues in the rest of the flank as the animals and men had no idea where they were being attacked from or by how many. It was chaos, and I took advantage of the situation, I did, beating a knight repeatedly with my sword over the head and shoulders. The sword could make no cuts due to the mail and plate, but it acted as a club, and it beat the man down. He turned and raised his shield, which I continued to thrash until it shattered under my inhuman strength. As the shield burst into fragments, I struck the arm that held it. His chainmail stopped the cut of the blade, but it did not stop the powerful blow. The arm broke and folded as the man screamed, and his horse went out of control, taking the man into his own troops on an out-of-control destrier. I smiled as the last sight of him was him lying on the back of the horse out of control. Both Fenrir and I laughed, enjoying the madness of it all. The enemy was in a mass confusion as they fought my compatriots at the front and suffered my attacks from the rear. I slashed and hacked at infantry and knights alike, left and right. I did horrific damage with every stroke. Eventually, the order was given for our foe to fall back and regroup, and I was suddenly alone as we were left. At that moment, I thought they were running away. I thought they'd been routed and that we'd won the fight. It was exhilarating. I felt like a god in that moment. I know, the sin of pride. But it was only fleeting. I had personally turned the tide of that battle, and the enemy had run from us. Fenrir and I turned back the right flank by ourselves we had. My own lines came to meet me, and the household knights gave me many a hearty backslap and congratulation. I was given a cheer. I felt incredible, I did. We reformed our line. I was happy to be on the flank this time. I knew what I was going to do. I was going to go back to my courtyard and wait for the enemy line to pass and re-attack that same flank. We charged, the thunder of horses in full flight being driven by the knights of my lord filled my ears, and the blood flowed through me quicker as my war cries joined those of my fellows to meet the foe's line. We smashed through the enemy's shield wall and went into the melee behind the flank line before the cavalry the enemy had in reserve were used to push us back behind our own lines again. Fenrir and I had decided on our play at this point. We took this opportunity to go back to the courtyard. This was a mistake this time. I had managed to regain the courtyard once more, but had so many of the enemy's infantry there. There were many more of them this time than there had been before, you see, and sadly for me, they were much better armed to attack a man on a horse. Many had billhooks. This is a great tool to remove knights from the saddle. In the description, they are sharp, pointed spear-like pole arms with a hook built into the blade. A useful tool when combined with a shield wall for pulling down opponents' shields, men and knights from the saddle. The men were well trained, and they used a shield wall to protect themselves and push me back as they reached with the long shafted pole hooks to stab or pull me from the saddle. I had no space in which to move. My horse had no room to move. I hacked the heads of the pole weapons. I tried to stop them from getting to me, but it was only a matter of time before one got through. A well-hafted hook took me in the shoulder, it did. It was stuck solid and the pain was incredible. I felt the man pull, and I was nearly taken from my mount. I yelled, not from the agony of the injury, but from the fact I was trapped and pinned by this stupid barb. Stupidly, I dropped my own shield and yanked at the tip of my shoulder. The enemy's warriors had broken their well-trained structure in their moment of success. They were out of control, they were, hacking and slashing at me and my horse. We both took untold damage, we did, as the horse and I fought back. Oh, and how we fought. By God's grace, we created a gap to escape through, and I forced my bleeding and injured horse into a gallop to get away from this trap. A trap, of course, of my own making. Many times we were hurt. Fenrir leads us back in nefarious ways to our own lines. We stopped in safety. Fatigue set in. The level of energy dropped. I remember leaning on my pommel before falling from my horse and hitting the ground as men came to my aid. The wolf soul came and sat next to me. I lay on my back in the grass. I looked to my left and saw my horse in much distress as it fell to its haunch and then to the ground. It screamed as it dealt with the agony of the damage that had been inflicted upon it. It fell to its side, and with a feeling of my own relief, the bastard passed. Darkness came then, and I thought I was on my final journey.
Brought to you in association with Grendel Press. This is Werewolf, the podcast, a serial killer drama.